Okay, guys, thanks so much for joining us. This is the Brooke Report, and my name is David Brooke, and I am joined today by Zac Neville with ZN Construction. Zac is a longtime friend, and not only that, he has personally serviced clients of ours and even my own properties as he runs I would call it a large contracting company. But Zac is pretty humble, and he'll tell us a little bit more about that. I wanted to get started today by just thanking you, first of all, for joining us. And wanted to ask a couple of questions because a lot of people are going to be listening to this who are probably small business owners, whether in the real estate industry or beyond. And people don't always get a glimpse inside of somebody's business in order to see really just like not only the highlights, but also some of those low points, some of the valleys. And throughout getting started in business, it can look a little bit different at the start than it does maybe at the middle or as you continue to grow in that process. So if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about like where you're at in your business in terms of like how many homes you remodel, or tell us a little bit about the projects that you work on. So give people an idea of who you are and what you do.
Sure. Well, first, thanks so much for having me over here.
All right.
This is going to be great. So ZN Construction, we're a 6-year-old company. We do everything from foundation to roof, inside and out. And in terms of how many homes we service, I mean, hundreds. Over the last few years, we've experienced a lot of growth. Over our entire 6 years, we've experienced a lot of growth. And each year is different than the last, different challenges, different things you got to overcome, and also more fulfilling than the last because we continue to grow and be able to deliver our services to more and more people.
For sure.
In terms of, what was the next question that you wanted to ask?
Well, just asking about like the starting process from like, your business got started where it was pretty much, it was you and a hammer, right?
Yeah.
It was right. Just like a standard startup. But now you said you're servicing hundreds of homes. I see you in some of the nicest properties that are around. Like, how did you get to that place where you are really just excelling in such a quick space of 6 years? How did that happen for you?
Well, it kind of starts from the beginning, so I'll start there.
All right.
Me by myself swinging a hammer.
Okay.
I worked for other construction companies for my whole career and learned a lot from them, and a lot of stuff to do and a lot of stuff not to do. And some of the biggest things that I was seeing was that a lot of focus was placed on the projects themselves. Not everyone, but most contractors come from the trades. They come from swinging a hammer. They come from running electrical, running plumbing, HVAC, whatever. And when you're in the trades, you're focused on your trade and becoming more proficient at it, becoming better at it.
Best electrician,
Exactly.
Best plumber, whatever that is, right?
They all do excellent work. But the problem is when you jump from being in the trades to running a business or starting a business, which is a fairly natural progression for these guys.
You meaning like I work for someone and I'm a laborer, but now I want to go out on my own and now I have to run a business? Is that what you mean?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Not so much a laborer, but so basically there's usually not a lot of room for growth and opportunity with these companies because a lot of companies that service residential properties specifically, or even commercial properties, are very small. So like there might be the business owner, he might have a son, he might have a brother or something like that. That was where I was at when I first started working for a company like that. All those guys have their position, they have their job in the company. They're not really looking for massive growth, and that leaves no room for opportunity for the guys working for them. Like they can get up so far on the ladder in terms of pay or responsibility or whatever, and then there's nowhere else for them to go.
And did you find that like a lot of guys that you were working with were looking for some upward mobility and some capacity?
Sure.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yep.
Because that's why I was saying it was kind of a natural progression for most guys in the field is to start their own company because there's no upward mobility. There's nowhere for them to continue to expand in the organization that they're working for. The problem with that is that you have all these guys who are used to swinging a hammer, used to doing their trade. Now they jump to being a business owner because that's all they can really do. They haven't found any other options for a better position, a better pay scale, a better opportunity for them in their lives. They jump into that business owner world, and what they know how to do is what they do really well, which is their trade. They know how to build the project. They know how to run the wires. They know how to do the plumbing. They know how to run HVAC or put HVAC
Right.
systems in or whatever it is, put on roofs. But there's so much more to business than doing that. And that was what I was getting at with some of the big problems that I saw was all of those things combined to produce excellent projects and excellent work, but not as excellent of an experience for the client as could be had.
Right.
And that's something that really kind of stuck with me when I made the leap to start a business was I wanted to give people a great experience. I wanted to give people something
that's awesome.
was smooth. And not only do we do excellent work, but you don't come home at 5 o'clock and have your whole house completely filled with dust, because that's stuff that I saw and stuff that I experienced when I first started. Is
meaning the contractor's in there, they're working on the house, but yet they don't clean up at the end.
You're doing an interior renovation and you don't set up dust management equipment. There's going to be dust everywhere when you're doing demo or when you're sanding sheetrock or something like that. And that dust travels throughout the entire house. That's an extreme example, but even as much as walking in your front door and there being dirt and debris all over the place on the floor where you and your kids are trying to make dinner, like not a great feeling, not
Right.
something you want to walk into and have to do after a long day's work.
So rather than just, if I'm hearing you right, you're not just providing the product of, wow, that kitchen looked great when it was finished. It was, as the consumer, as the homeowner there, that process, that entire experience of me having that renovation done, it interrupted my life in such a way that it was so minimal.
Right.
Because when they were done at the end of the day, they cleaned up or whatever it is, it provided me an excellent experience. And experiences are things that we want to share with others.
Exactly.
Right? Like no one...
And that people remember.
Exactly. Like just because you have a good steak, you're like, okay, great, that was a good steak. But if you have a wonderful experience at a steakhouse, you tell your friends about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that dinner was amazing. Like it's the best one I've ever had.
That's awesome, man, because like I think a lot of business owners, when they get started, they're like, okay, I want to be very good at whatever service I'm providing or product that I'm selling, but the experience is not the focus. And because of that, they find themselves plateauing a lot of times.
And that's something that that you hear all the time. We're the best at this. We're the best at this. We're the best at this. Every company says that.
I do.
I do too. But are you really the best at it? And what are all the small things that go into that?
Yeah, what
that
makes
make
it
you
the best? Right, exactly. And it should be the experience.
And there's other things too. I mean, as simple as showing up when you say you're going to show up, returning phone calls, consistent communication.
Wow, the bar
client.
seems pretty low.
It's very low, but all this stuff is so simple and seems like common sense. And really, when people ask me, how did I get started? How did we grow? It's on these small principles, We do what we say we're going to do. We show up when we say we're going to show up. We make the process smooth from start to finish in terms of picking out all the details for the project and
Man,
getting all
that
that
flowed
lined
like
up.
so naturally. That's that like core principle stuff for you.
Basically.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, one of those is
it's
ours.
so
Like,
small.
we do the work. Like,
Right.
That's one of my company's core principles. It's like you have to do that, because if you do that, then your customer is going to have the experience that they've always wanted.
Because in reality, people want that service. They want that. They want what you can offer them. They want you to give them a new house or to sell their house. They don't always think about all the small things that go along with that process. And those small things are really what make a great company, a good company to a great company, Focusing on the details.
Just in relating to that, you and I were at an event recently and with another business owner, and I think the book that came up was The E-Myth Revisited.
For sure.
And you read that. I was shocked that you had read. I don't know if we had passed that to each other or something like that a long while ago, but The E-Myth Revisited really highlights this process of, am I a technician at what I'm doing? Am I a manager, right? Or am I an entrepreneur? And I think, and you could go into this, you were working for another company that maybe wasn't even functioning as a full business, right? With like a business mindset of solving a problem and providing an experience for a customer. And yet you stepped out of that and had to be an entrepreneur and starting your business. But it wasn't just because you could be the technician of swinging the hammer and installing tile and doing roofing and everything else. It was that you had to look at yourself as a business owner and now realize, wow, I need to get human capital, and I need to manage budgets, and I need to save for taxes, and I need marketing plans, and I need a full experience for the customer. So what advice would you give like to someone who's maybe like working at a company right now, wants to start their own company, was just in your shoes? Like, where do you say to get started?
Wow. The E-Myth is a great book, and I love that you touched on that. It was something that we probably read it at a similar point in time. For me, it was right as I first got started. I had a mentor who was like, here's this book. I bought it for you. You need to read it. And me just getting started, I may have seen those problems in the construction field and stuff and wanted to change them, but you don't know the answers. You don't know what the progression is. There's no step-by-step book that can tell you this is exactly, if you follow these exact steps, you will get success or you will get
There's
growth,
nothing like that in contracting that you've seen in like recent years.
There is. There's things, but it's like, how do you do those steps?
Right.
There's nothing easy about it, nothing quick. It's all hypotheticals kind of, and things that maybe have worked for other people that you have to try to pick apart how that works for you in your situation, and I'm sure that's the same with real estate too. I mean, I know you're a pioneer with that. But for me, when I first read that book, it was a little bit humbling. Like, how is this even going to be possible?
I felt the same.
You know what
it was
I mean?
one of the most humbling books ever.
Right. Like, how, like, this is cool and it sounds good.
Right.
It sounds great. This is how you step out of that technician role and into the business owner role.
Right.
And basically build a team to be able to do those things and make the business flow smoothly. But the how and the what are you going to do are very big questions. You know what I mean? Like, it's not an easy process. So when I first started and read that book and whatnot, you try to implement things. You try to take things off of your plate and have other people do those for you. But if you just go tell someone to do something that is a high value task, like for us, building the projects is a high value task. I need people who are very well educated and experienced in what they do to be able to give that product that we want to offer to this client to our standard. You know what I mean? Those people are hard to come by. They're not just walking around the street.
Especially these days.
These days.
It's very challenging.
You could walk down the street and ask somebody, hey, can you come work for me? And they'll say yes. Do you have any experience? A little. I've put a light fixture up, or I've changed some trim at my house or something like that. That's not professional experience. In our business, it's all done by hands. It's all done by people that have the skills and the experience and the years and years and years and years and years of doing it over and over again that can do it well and can perform at it and do it proficiently and effectively in a short period of time. That was one of the biggest challenges when I first started. Was I started out, I hired a helper, and basically this is just a person that's with you that can go and get stuff for you or load stuff onto the truck, unload it off the truck. You can try to teach them little things, but it takes a long time and a lot of persistence and consistency to actually build the skill set that's needed to do the work well. So, and you couple that with the whole business side of things, that's a whole nother piece of this. The actual learning of the trade takes a long time. So, like I said, one of the first things that I was struggling with was finding people, and getting the right people. Not everyone who's a pro is going to jump to a new company that's fresh, a year old, 2 years old, and put their hat in the basket, per se, and jump on with you and actually perform for you, because there's a lot of risk in that. A lot of businesses fail. Most businesses fail within the first year. A lot more fail within the first 5 years. So where's the kind of surety of that to make them want to make that choice? And a lot of it came with repetition and consistency, always showing up. I was on site at every single project for the first 2, 3, even 4 years, and making sure that those things ran smoothly and doing a lot of the work myself, because there wasn't really anyone else that could make sure that it was done to the standard that we were setting for our clients at that point. That was honestly probably one of the biggest hurdles for me, is just finding the right people to start building a team. And then obviously there's more after that. But
so for you, I mean, it seems like, and forgive me if I'm wrong, in my business, there's 1 million realtors, right? There's 1 million realtors in the United States. And at some point, it literally exceeded that. There was 1.4 million realtors, I want to say, in 2021, wow. Right? And there was only 1.1 million houses on the market, right? So somebody's starving, right?
Right. A lot of people are starving.
But it doesn't. But it doesn't actually play out that way, right? Like there's a group or a segment that's doing the majority of the business, exactly. Right? That's there. It's real estate teams, but in some capacity, contractors can be similar. It's like you always know a guy who's pretty handy at this or pretty handy at that. I was just speaking with a team member this morning, and I encouraged him. I said, listen, you have to find the reason why that customer should use you rather than any of the 40 other people who are here in this office.
Right.
There's a lot of people with real estate licenses. What makes it different for you? What is that slight edge for you that puts you ahead of the competition? And that can be something as interesting as, well, David sells in Simsbury and gives to the Simsbury Food Bank out of every single closing. Let's say I did that. I don't. I want to be clear. I probably should now, having said that. But if you do that, that's a reason why, right? Like I want to do business with him. Or for instance, it's a David's actually a real estate appraiser, which I am. So let's say I am a real estate appraiser, but other realtors are not.
Right.
Now I'm providing a reason why, and I think as an encouragement to new business owners, finding that understanding as to why someone should use you helps create that experience. It sets the stage for that experience.
For sure.
And for you, I've noticed in your business, you have a systemized process. Like the reason I recommend your company is simply just for one of them is out of the systems that you've set in place, where it would appear, even though the bar is low, please return phone calls. Yours is set up with like online systems to get people, get your sales team to call them back and uploading photos for the project that you want. Did you set that out right at the start, or how did you kind of grow? Did you grow into that? What and could you give recommendations to new business owners as to what they should do at the start for finding their own voice? I know that's a lot there.
There is a lot there. I really liked what you said about like finding your why, like what makes you the go-to person for real estate, or why should they buy from you versus someone else?
Yeah.
That's huge. And I had heard that, there's always people around us that have more experience than us. And that's a point too to make, is like, you can learn something from literally everyone. It's just, are your ears open to hear it? And can you process that information and use it in your own life or not? When I first started, there were people telling you were a great mentor in terms of the business space and like giving me advice as to how, some tips and tricks of how to start these systems and stuff. But all of those are just conversations until you put in the work and actually like build consistency to do it every day and want to perfect it. And that was something you asked, did I have this whole plan or did I have this stuff set up from the start? No, because you can take all that information and it all sounds good, but until you're in a place where that information actually makes sense, there's no way that you're going to be able to use it effectively to better yourself or your business or the people around you, right? So for me, it really, this is kind of flow right through with our story, but finding those people, being able to kind of pull myself out of the field gave me some time to start to develop some of these systems and start to figure out, how can we do this more efficiently? How can we do this better where it's smoother and you're not just running around from one thing to the next all day, every day? And I think that a lot of small business owners are doing that. They're just putting out this fire to put out this fire to put out this fire.
That's correct.
Jumping back to this thing. I need to focus on sales, so I'm going to do some sales. Then I'm going to process those sales and try to get them into production or move them through the pipeline. I got to train my people, so I'm going to do some training right now. It's not very organized. An organization is something that I was blessed with, a good level of organization, I think, and something that's extremely important for all business owners to be able to develop that efficiency. Because if you're running around solving all these problems and putting all these fires out all the time, you're not having smooth forward momentum with where you're trying to go for your goals, where you're trying to go with your business, your life, everything. And over the first few years, I definitely was doing the same thing because I didn't know any other way to do it, because I was still figuring out what works for us, what's the process look like. Because honestly, there's no other companies that I know of, at least around here, but I would say in most of the country, there's very few companies that do what we do in the way that we do it, and are looking for that constant growth, that constant efficiency, and that kind of thing. And that's a very big thing to say because the country is huge, tons of successful people out there. But in the contracting world, there's not a lot of direction. And initially, I was looking for direction. I was looking for, how do I do this better? I remember one time in 2017, At that point, I had 3 guys. 2 guys were decent, and one of them is actually still with me. So he's my longest term employee. He's been with me for 5.5 years, something like that. Great guy. But at the time, our processes were not set. We were not running as efficiently as we could, and I was running around putting out all those little fires. And I remember coming home and being like, there has to be a better way to do this. There has to be something that is like, can make this process smoother. How did these other companies get bigger than me? How do we get to that next level type deal? And I did a lot of research. I started looking on podcasts. I started reading books. I started looking on YouTube. And I found other guys in the construction space that had tips and tricks that enabled me to start formulating ideas for those processes and systems that we've built. Is it a plug-and-play system for everyone? No, there's not. I don't think that there is, because every person is different. And in construction, there's so many variables. There's so many different things, both on the business side and on the actual work side, that you're going to run into that are potential problems. And most people don't really have a good way to see those problems through and to master them or find ways to eliminate those before they happen. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I was one of those people.
Can you give us an example of one of those systems that you have that's in place? I mean, maybe even share about the process of having someone come out to your property in order to quote installing a bathroom, for example.
For sure.
I think that's one of your, it's honestly
definitely a differentiator for us.
Go ahead and share that a little bit, just because I feel like those business owners who are getting started in the process, this is a way that I feel like you saw an inefficiency in your market.
Right.
And you solve for it. So just to loop back for some people, you need to get started into the process to learn how to swing the hammer, to learn how to install the tile. You need to learn how to get good with that. But then step back as you're starting a business to say, what inefficiency is being solved that I can solve, what's the problem? And then when determining the why, you said the big why. Sometimes it's a why for yourself, but you're asking for other people, why should they use you? And you're providing them, well, here's your solution to your problem.
Right.
Every time I call a contractor, they don't come out. It's slow to respond. They might come out and talk with you for an hour, but then you never get the quote. You never get the estimate because they're too busy. So you solve that problem. Go ahead and share a little bit about that.
So in that same time frame where I was kind of running around like a chicken with its head cut off, so to speak, I found myself in the spring going on somewhere between 20 and 40 estimates a week. And estimates for the typical contractor means when someone calls your phone, they want you to look at a project to give them a price usually. 9 out of 10 contractors are going to say, okay, when works for you to come and do that? And I was doing the same thing because that's the only way that I had ever seen it done before. So people would call me, hey, I need you to come and look at my deck. Hey, I need you to come look at my front steps. Hey, I need you to come look at my kitchen flooring. Hey, I need you to come look at my backyard, whatever. I'd set appointments with these people, and I'd try to be as efficient as I could with driving around. But if you think about 20 to 40 appointments a week to go look at these things, that's so much time. So I was doing some in the morning. I'd do some at lunch. I'd do some at night. And in the middle of those times, I'd be on site at the projects that we had running. So
right.
Making sure that things
just
were flowing along.
And it's just that
constant
gear switch.
When I started trying to figure out how can we do this better, that was a big thing that I saw was pre-qualifying your leads. And that was something that I never did before. Someone would call, hey, I have this project for you. Come out and take a look at it. I would barely ask them any questions. I'd just say, all right, when works for you? Set the date in my schedule and go. Some of those 20 to 40 ones that I would go out on, I didn't even do the thing that they wanted done. Like I didn't even do hardscaping or I don't know, mold remediation or something like that. And I'd go out there and I'd take a look at it and be like, ugh, I just drove 45 minutes to this person's house and I can't even service them. I can't even do this thing that they want me to do. So pre-qualifying your leads. Started asking people questions. What kind of job is it? What do you need done? Are you looking for numbers at this point, or is this something that you're looking to move forward with right away?
Yeah.
That helped, but it still wasn't very efficient. And I was doing all this throughout 2014, 15, 16, 17, somewhere in there. We're a very technologically focused society these days. I was looking for ways to help to make my business something that I had to do less work for the same amount of output, right? While I was doing all this, I was thinking about my estimating process. I'd go out to somebody's house, I'd snap pictures of what they wanted, I'd take down their information. You want to remodel this bathroom? Okay, do you want to do the whole thing to the studs, or do you just want to do the floors, the vanity, the toilet, the bathtub, the fixtures, basically? And I would take all that information back to my office, which was in my basement at the time, and review those photos that I took, review the information that I gathered when I was out on site, and develop an estimate for them. And I develop a full written estimate for doing whatever they wanted to do. How many of those do you think that I actually got? A few.
Right.
So you got all this wasted time driving around, all these people that you're talking about, and you only get a few jobs out of it. Not very efficient. I realized, okay, pretty much everyone has a smartphone today, and now it's basically everyone has a smartphone. How hard is it to snap a few pictures of what you want, tell me what you want in a text or something, and send that information to me? Then I can get you an estimate of a price in
Love it.
30 minutes or
Exactly.
less.
And we're conditioned so much by just online ordering systems or online companies that I want. That's the experience that I want. I just want my answer
So
now.
you look at Amazon.
Right.
This was another thing that I was thinking of when I was kind of processing this. You order something on Prime and it should show up 2 days later or something like that. Very quick, very easy, very simple. Yep. How do we take that same concept or a similar concept and use it for us? So we've worked on that system over time, and now we have it fairly perfected, I would say, to where people will send us. People want us to quote their bathroom. They want us to quote their kitchen, whatever. They'll send us a description of what they want to do. Okay, we want to rip everything out to the studs.
Do they text you or
email? So that was another thing. Is like, as a business owner, you're handling new requests for information from so many different ways. You got texts, you got calls, voicemails, Facebook messages, Instagram messages, business Facebook messages, people that meet you on the street and say, hey, come help me with this, emails, website, like all these different avenues that people can contact you. When you're a small business owner and you're trying to put out those fires and you don't have these processes in place yet, which every one of us was initially,
right?
How are you going to respond to every single person? You're not. There were people that would call me that I wouldn't be able to get back to, or I'd remind myself to get back to, but then 4 other problems would come up and you just forget about them, That's something that plagues the contracting industry, just like you just said, people never call you back or they never follow up.
That's the experience that everyone's used to.
It sucks because that person's not getting an answer to their problem. The contractor's not getting the opportunity to try to win the sale for that project and further his business. So what we did was we took all those ways of communication and directed them all into an email, basically a funnel, like a sales funnel is what we created. Whenever someone calls us, they get explained our process, and they get directed to send an email with the photos, the description. When they go to our website, they fill out a form. Here's the description. Please send us some photos of your project to this email address. When they reach out on Facebook, they get a message right back instantaneously saying, this is our sales process. Please send us this information. It all goes to this one email. So that makes it a lot easier to track all of the requests for quotes, and also a lot easier to make sure that you're following up with people on a smooth and consistent and fast basis, because no one wants to wait 3 weeks to get a call back. They definitely don't want to wait 3 weeks after that to get their quote. You know what I mean? As fast as we can get them this information, the faster they can make their decision. So that all kind of played into why we set up this system. And initially, was it hard? Yes, it was. Like, I remember it was in 2018 where we launched this, and I remember one night where I was like, I'm not going out for free to these people's houses anymore. And it's scary because you're like, wondering, am I going to get any jobs, or is this going to like blow up in my face or something like that?
So what'd you do?
Did it anyway. Like, you got to just go. You make a decision, you have to go. You have to do it. Execute, right? Execute. So we started it. We definitely had some people that weren't very happy about the process. I would say probably 10% of them initially 10% of people that would call us for an estimate would be upset that they had to do some work to get this quote, that I wouldn't just come right out to their job, to their house, and look at their job. But 90% of people we had a great feedback from, because think about it. It makes it so much easier. You don't have to take time out of
your own schedule.
Busy?
Right.
Who's busy? Everyone is busy.
Right.
You got kids, you got work, you got a spouse, you got friends, you got all these commitments to make. Who wants to take time out of their schedule to meet with a contractor that might or might not show up? Because that's another thing. Like, you set a schedule, you set something up, half the time no one shows. And you're like, what the heck? Like, I just took off of work, or I took off of my kid's basketball game or whatever to meet this person, didn't even have them come. So they send us that information. We can get back to them on our schedule when we have time to do it, which is usually fairly quickly. Get them the information that they're looking for, which usually is a price. Most of the time people are reaching out because they don't have any idea what something like this is going to cost. Say a bathroom costs $20,000 to redo. Mm-hmm. They might think it's going to cost $5,000. Did it used to cost $5,000? Sure, but now it doesn't. So if they're looking for this price to be able to plan, the faster that we can get them that information, the better, because then they have it. 9 times out of 10, you'll send someone an estimate. They're not going to respond to you right away. They're going to respond to you in 3 months when they actually think about doing it again, or when they've been able to save some money to be able to make the project happen.
Right, exactly, because I feel like most people, if they do not understand that process, even if it's buying or selling a home, they may come to me. I talk to people 2 years in advance before buying or selling a house.
Right.
I had no idea, right? Go get pre-qualified for a mortgage, and they tell you, hey, you got to work on your credit score. Hey, you got to work on saving for a down payment or whatever it is. If that's the case, then certainly it's not necessary, and it's not the customer's job to stay in touch with you. It's your job to stay in touch with them. And so understanding that process, just to get back to it for small business owners, that process for you solved a niche. It provided you to be in that niche that consumers want, which is that speed to lead response time,
right,
which was so high. And I think with the conditioning of Amazon and everything else that tells us we're going to get this on a prime speed time, you solve that. We've had to solve it for our own selves in the brokering industry, because as soon as someone is sitting on an app for an online realty portal, they're clicking that contact agent. They want, in the same way, I want to see that property right now.
Answer the phone.
Hey, please answer the phone immediately.
Right,
immediately. And what is the biggest? It's funny. One of the biggest complaints about real estate agents is that people just hate real estate agents, and it is. It is.
Why?
Because the same exact reason. It's I can't return a phone call. I can't show up to a property on the same time. I don't have the answers. How much is this worth? Well, I'll get back to you. Right. Well, tell me about the siding on the house. Well, I don't know. It looks like wood. Right.
Little caveat here for business owners specifically that may be listening to this. You want to deliver the best service to every single client. You want to be there all the time. You want to be always
Absolutely.
on. You want to be doing all this stuff. How hard is that to do? Like, one person can only physically do so much. How many hours a week are you willing to sacrifice to deliver that service or that experience? When people are calling you and they want someone to answer, they don't understand, and they don't even care that you have 40 other people that all want the exact same thing that you're trying to handle and move them through the process too. So just a little, for business owners, we all feel it. It's something that clients are never, I don't think, going to understand unless they've been there.
Exactly. And the reality is we shouldn't have to, the customer shouldn't have to take our excuses that we're busy.
Right.
That shouldn't be it. It should be
customers I'm busy too.
I'm busy too. We're all right. How many of us are busy? Right. We're all busy. So in that aspect, if we're going to solve problems for consumers, if you're starting a small business and you're trying to solve that problem for yourself. How do I do that in such a way where I'm not, even if I'm doing the job, I can still take a sales call that's coming in.
Right.
How do I service that? And one of those is expectation setting, like you've done with your website. With us, I'm showing a house right now. So I have autoresponders that actually go out. I have bots that can talk back and forth for just the simple questions that are at the start. Or maybe for myself, I'm biased in this because I run a real estate team. You have an office that has someone who is sitting there from 9 to 5 or whatever it is, who can take those calls inbound, or your calls route, or whatever else it is, so that they're preset. Or for yourself, the scripting in order to handle, hey, I'm with a customer right now. Can I call you back right after the showing? It's that simple training process where you're not only training yourself, but you're also training the customer to set up the proper expectations for them have a great experience with it.
For sure.
In a couple more questions that I have about the consumer process. How are you, is there a way that you're actively listening with your consumers? Like as you're completing these jobs, or maybe you have a feedback process that's at the end. How are you listening to provide a better experience on the back end? Because I think you talked about it before, that people were upset about people not returning calls. You were actually hearing your own self when you're like, I don't want to drive out to these properties and these guys don't, right? Like, how are you listening with your customers? Like, do you have a feedback process?
For whether or not they like our process,
whether or not they like your
there's
process,
something better that could
or
be.
you're asking them specific questions throughout the process in order to like try to actively listen and gain some sort of feedback, whether you like it or not, and then provide a better experience.
Right. So yes, we ask our clients from time to time how they liked our experience. Is there anything that we can do better? We haven't gotten a lot of, other than the basic stuff, like say we missed a call or say we didn't get back to them or say something like that. We haven't gotten a lot of like very insightful information. And I don't know why, other than just that it's a very new thing. Like in our industry, like we're the only ones that really do this and have poured all of our energy and resources into doing it this way. I would say that you have to, in business, you have to think about everything to be successful. Like you have to think about the experience that they get when they first reach out. You have to think about the experience that they get when they're getting when they're getting an estimate, when you're walking them through that pipeline of how do we take you from being a lead to actually doing a project for you? And then once we actually are going to do the project for you, how do we make sure that that experience is good too, so that it's the full package? Because if you just offer a great experience on your incoming calls or your inbound leads, and you don't follow through with that great experience throughout the whole thing, was it really a great experience? Are they going to remember that really great person that they talked to on the phone? Or are they going to remember the hassle that they had to deal with when you're actually in their house, you know? Mm-hmm. For us, that was something that we had to hit on all cylinders, you know what I mean? We had to hit on everything so that the experience was excellent from the beginning all the way until the end. A massive thing that comes into this is the people, the quality of people that you're working with. And I don't know if this specific, I'm kind of tangenting off of your question, yeah. But no matter if you're in business in real estate, in business, you own a restaurant, you, I don't know, walk dogs, you build houses, you work on cars. People are what make the difference, right? Like our person-to-person interaction is how we portray, like, did we have a great experience, a good experience, or a bad one? You know, did I like this person, first impression, whatever, or did I not like them? For us, in going along with being that excellent company and delivering that excellent experience, the people are the center. And it's even more so for us because we need guys that can do the work, they can swing the hammer proficiently, they can put in quality materials or install them properly into somebody's house that's going to look good, last a long time, and that the customer is happy with, but are also good people in general. They have good personalities. They're easy to talk to.
Character's important.
Right.
Integrity when they're walking around, personable, friendly.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not cursing in your house. Like, they're not disrespectful of your place, you know? And that, I think, is a lot of culture comes into that a lot. Like, you have to build your people. You have to mentor them. You have to help them to grow and constantly reinforce why we're doing this. Why is this so important? Why are we touching on this again, you know? How can we help you to get better in this way? But in terms of people reaching out, like feedback for us, to be honest, man, I consider myself a pretty humble person, but I haven't gotten a lot of negative.
So you're at
feedback.
least getting positive feedback, though, which is great. I'm sure
99% positive feedback.
Fantastic. So but there's a review process that's happening. Whether it's are you using like a service that like reaches out, or is it more or less at the end? It was like, hey, how did we do?
It's throughout the project, but yes, at the end, like, how did we do? Is there anything that we still need to do or can do better?
And I find that
not so much. We don't send everyone a survey,
right?
Like,
well, the reason that I asked that is simply because
here's 5 questions about our company. Please answer.
Yeah, please, yes or no, right? So I think that one of the biggest reasons is because you know, I think it was Walt Disney who said it, like, create an experience that everyone loves so much that they tell other friends about, right? Like, that's the best product that you can possibly give. So, but many business owners fail to recognize that the consumer doesn't always know that they can help you by just referring. It doesn't always go through their mind. Business owners think that way because we know that that's how business works. A consumer doesn't necessarily work that way. However, what I try to instill with a lot of my agents and brokers is you want to be very focused about asking how we're doing throughout the process, what you're experiencing, and the great parts of that, because those are the perfect times to ask for what you truly want, which is a referral.
For sure.
It's great. Are we doing a great job on this?
So maybe I didn't really quite understand.
No, it's okay.
So we don't actually send people a survey.
For sure,
But
yeah.
when I said throughout the process, so it kind of is a long story too, but goes into the structure of our company. So like we get these leads. There's 3 people who are salesmen. The 3 salesmen respond to these leads. They respond to each person what they want. If someone says, hey, I want you to do our project, then we have a whole another set of things that we do to get ready to do that project, right? And then pass that project off to our production team. The salesman stays with that project from start to finish because a massive tenet of our business is developing relationships with everyone we work for. Our business, our mission statement is to change the contracting industry for the better and to positively impact the lives of everyone we come in contact with. So how do we do that? It's day to day. It's boots on the ground, doing the stuff that we do. Getting back to our sales process, so our salesmen will talk to this person from when they first reach out to us until we finish their project and then when they're ready to do the next project. That relationship is vital because that's somebody that client knows that they can reach out to at any time with any problem or any request or any feedback, praise, whatever. And the salesperson is developing that relationship so they can also reach out to that client at any time, ask them how the project's going. And we do. Once we get someone on the schedule for a project, the salesperson is going to be in contact with them all the way up until that project starts. Even if it's scheduled out 4 months. Initially, the salesman's going to get everything set so that we have everything ready to go for it. But then a month, every month, and then a month in, a couple weeks in, a week in, a couple days in, they're reaching out to that person to make sure, hey, we're all set on our end for this. Is there anything, tell me, are you guys ready to go? Is there anything that we can do to make this process smoother? Is there anything you haven't told me yet? 9 times out of 10, throughout that whole process, the client's changing their mind. They have different things that they want to address or add on or take off. And the salesperson's working with them throughout all of those. Once the project is in production and we actually do it, our guys on site, it comes back to the character and the quality of people that you have. They're doing the same thing. Hey, this is what I have in my work order for this project. This is what we're going to do.
So you're repeating back to them.
Repeating back to them what we're doing, always. Because another problem that I had seen was inconsistent communication. You go and start, a lot of guys will go and start a project, then they'll go start another one, then they'll go and start another one. So it's always back to back to back, jumping all around. There is none of that consistency. There is no smooth flow. So it all kind of ties, that's why it's a little more complicated for us, but it all kind of ties together in that great experience because our people are focused on that person as a client and as a person.
Right.
How do we best service you?
Yep.
Though we don't often need to say or send a survey or to ask them after the project is done because 1, we're not going to get paid until they're happy with it. 2, we're trying to build that relationship with them, our salesman is going to be asking them, how'd you like what we did? Is there anything we could have done better? Is there anything that you need in the future? If anything comes up, this is a line everyone says, if anything comes up, whether it's tomorrow, you just gave us the final check, right? If anything comes up that you notice tomorrow, tonight, next week, whatever, give us a call. We'll come back out. We'll take care of it.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
And then after that, we just had the end of the year. At the end of the year, we reach out to every single client that we did work for that year, some more than others, because some of them, usually when we do a job for somebody, they want us to come back. They're already ready for their next project or planning that out. Because of that great experience that they've had with us. Mm-hmm. But there's also clients that we do one project for and then don't hear from them again. So we reach back out to them, hey, how's everything going with your floors that we put in? Is there anything that needs to be touched up? Oh, by the way, is there anyone that you know that needs our services that can benefit from us?
I think that process is not integrated enough into most small business owners from the start. For small business owners getting started, they often think, I just want to complete that project. The best way you can accelerate your business, or at least it worked for me, is to constantly ask people throughout the process, great, so we scheduled that home inspection for you. We're really excited to go out. Do you have any questions about that process? Here's the 5 things that you need to know. No, that's awesome. Has this been great so far? Right? Has this been great so far? Right? Is your experience great so far? Yeah, man, it's been awesome so far. Awesome. Who do you know right now who also could use a great experience, right? So I'm constantly asking for that referral, probably 5 times throughout the process, because if you ask for someone to refer you on the day of their closing, they have zero desire to do anything but make sure the pizza's ordered and their family showing up in order to help them move into that house. Like, they are not thinking about filling out a survey. Right. They're not thinking about like which friend of theirs is going to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. And they constantly need to be reminded of that. So that was one process that, like, if you're a small business owner or you're a real estate agent and you take something from this, institute a feedback loop that happens consistently throughout your process, because it allows you that opportunity to actually ask for something. You want to ask them a question that you already know the answer to, that is going to come back positively, and then that positivity you can reflect back to them and ask them to reciprocate. You had a great experience? Awesome, cool. Who also needs a good experience? Right. It's an easy ask.
Segue.
Because naturally, it's like when you go into a store, hey, can I help you with anything? The natural response is, no, I'm just browsing, right? When you complete a job or you help somebody purchase a house, the natural indication or the natural response to, hey, if you know anyone else who's looking to buy, sell, or invest, no problem, man, I'd always refer you, right?
So I completely agree. For us, I feel it's a little more complicated than that, because who do you know who's had a bad contracting experience?
Many people.
Many. There's horror stories everywhere. People that reach out to us for a project, if they've never worked with us before, are not going to automatically go to their friends and say, hey, use these guys. The person who's been talking to me on the phone has been great. You know what I mean? It's only once we've completed that project for them that they can see, wow, those guys really do care. All of the people on that team were super nice. Right. All of the people on that team treated me like I was their number one priority. All those people on that team treated each other like they respected each other. You know what I mean? From start to finish, wow, that company really knocked it out of the park. It's only after that we really have built that kind of...
You build that trust for sure.
Exactly.
Eventually
confidence.
That gets there. For me, I'm constantly conditioning the consumer that's what's important to me, right? Like, it's consumers... As the most part, they want whatever. I'm a consumer, and I don't know how Amazon fully works. I don't know that. I don't know how contracting. I really don't. But but what I'm guessing is what's important to you is for you to provide me a good product. Great. But what you really also want is you want more jobs. You want more referrals. But I don't know that naturally, right? Unless I'm a business owner and I kind of like reflect upon that. And so what I'm constantly doing is
setting it up for that.
I'm reminding the consumer of what's important to me. So I was going over this in a practice the other day for how we meet first-time home buyers.
Right.
And many first-time home buyers have a massive concern, right? Their barrier to trust is so high. And you only have a very short time that you can actually build that trust on the phone with them or in person. And so a common thing that I often say to people is, I just want to let you know up front that it's not my goal and intent to find you a house. And they often laugh, or they step back and they're like, well, what are you doing? They're thinking like your job is here. I said, no, my goal is to actually sell every home of all of your friends and family forever. And when they hear that, they often laugh as well. And it disarms that process so much. And then I repeat this one thing back, and I say, if I give you a great experience here, would you mind referring me to every friend and family member? Because that's my goal, and I know what's at stake. Right. And as soon as I say that, man, it disarms them. Everyone's disarmed, because now they know what my true intent is the entire time. And now what I can do throughout the process is like at the end of that first showing. Again. Yeah, on that first showing, at the end of it, I say, listen, you already have my phone number, but like I told you, hopefully you enjoyed the showing process. It was different than you've ever experienced showing a home. Here's 2 business cards. One of them's not for you. One of them's for a friend, right? And the other's for a family member, and for another family member. And that reaffirms throughout the process that my goal and intent here is a lifelong relationship with you. And I want to be your forever agent. I want to be your forever professional. And so when I set that tone now throughout the inspection process, throughout the mortgage process, throughout whatever it is, hey, you still have a great experience with our mortgage professional? Awesome. Who else needs a great mortgage experience right now? How can I help? And so that has been able to accelerate our business in such a fast way where most people are like, the average agent sells, I don't know if you know this, somewhere between like 8 and 10 homes. It used to be 7, but obviously, things are cranking with residential real estate. It's now around 10 homes a year. Like we're doing 650. Like how do you grow it that quickly? And that's through a process, I think, that like we really identify, like even during this conversation here, it's all about the experience and setting up the experience in such a way that not only the consumer is having a great time, but we are too.
Right.
And at the end of it, we're left with what we truly want. It's not high fives and 5-star like check marks. Those are important. But it's more relationships that we get to interact with people and practice our craft over and over. Yeah.
No, that's huge, man. And honestly, that's something that we can definitely implement. And I love what you said about kind of throwing that out there. Like, look, I'm not here to sell you a house. I'm here to sell everyone a house.
It's a dangerous statement, right?
Right. Because initially they're like, why is this guy saying this to me? But then once you follow through with that, it really opens the door for more of those conversations. And of course, there's always stuff that you can implement that will better your business. That's definitely something that we can. But we do tell clients throughout the process, like, look, we're building a relationship with you because we don't want you to use anyone else. We want to be able to be the contractor that you work with, whether it's this house, your next house, on every project going forward. We hope you experienced a great experience through using us and want you to experience it again. Yeah.
It's funny how like you're talking about this longevity with people. Someone asked the other day, they're like, hey, what do you do, right? And you always have that elevator pitch. And for you, it might be easy enough. You're like, oh, I'm a contractor. But as soon as you say contractor, people have preconceived ideas, right? If you say real estate agent, like some people want to throw up in their mouth, right? They're just like, I don't want to deal with you, right? Like I had a bad experience in the same way.
You're just going to badger me.
You're just going to badger me to try to like sell me something. Like, please don't say the word house around me because like someone's going to like look over like. And it gets weird, right? And I noticed that like right at the start. Like I don't want to be at a family event and someone says the word house or like don't say that because like Dave's here, right? Because David's gonna come over.
He's gonna come in like a shark,
right? Like I heard you were talking about that kind of stuff. And so I had to ask myself a lot of times, like what is it that I do, right? What is it that I do? And so we help our agents and brokers with this kind of statement. It's when it comes to anything, from the front sidewalk to the back fence and anything in between. I'm your guy.
Nice.
I'm your guy. I'm your professional. Well, what do you mean by that? You need a new carpet? Great, I got a guy.
Right.
You need a new roof? I got a guy. Do you have questions about what's going on in the value of your properties or your neighborhoods or anything like that? I'm your guy. And it's been that process that we've helped people not only, yes, we know how to work through the real estate sales process. There's 188 steps to it. We endeavor to master all of that. But what we truly endeavor to do is to have the best relationships with everyone who's associated from the front sidewalk to the back fence and everything in between so that you're constantly reaching out to us as your go-to expert. And that creates a lifelong relationship where now I can continue to ask throughout that process, like, oh, I was able to help you with someone who was able to install a new fence for you or to install whatever that is. Who else needs some help in that process as well? And oh, by the way, I'm never too busy for any of the referrals that you have for buying or selling, investing in real estate, whatever it is.
Well, it kind of sets yourself up as the professional, the person that knows everyone. You know what I mean? And that's a big part of relationships. Like everyone needs something in their life.
That's right.
Who are they going to call? Are they going to, unless they know someone personally who does that for them, they need to call someone who knows the person to do it.
Exactly. Another question here for you is just, you talked about this, you touched about getting a good team. Some guys starting small businesses. That's the hardest thing. It was for me, right?
Yeah.
It's like getting out there. I've only surfed a couple of times. I was absolutely horrific at it. It was like the worst. It was embarrassing, right? I thought I was in shape. You're not in shape, right? Like if you think that. So I tried to get through that surf. That was so hard. For me, it was breaking through that $8-10 million mark in real estate sales. And it was hiring that first person. It was that who's gonna come alongside of you. But before you actually build a team and you want the best people around, a lot of times like you can't get that. For me, it was, that process of instilling confidence and training it in them. What's that like for you of instilling confidence in your team. How do you do that in a meaningful way where you're seeing results from it?
Yeah. The word that comes to mind is just leadership. And that is a very broad word, you know what I mean? But I was a prior military guy. I hate being micromanaged. I'm a hard charger. I want to go and knock stuff out.
Yeah.
If someone's going to tell me how to do something and then sit over my shoulder the whole step of the way.
You'd love that, right? No way.
It's what I look forward to every day.
Right.
Not at all. So for me, I was trying to emulate a place where that would be somewhere where I wanted to work. And I think that this all kind of plays into anyone that's trying to develop a team. You have to lead by example. You have to walk the walk that you're talking the talk to your guys with, you know? You can't, I will never, and I've told this to all my guys, I'll never tell you to do something that I wouldn't go do myself.
For sure, yeah.
In construction, there are so many different types of situations. You might be installing trim and it's nice and clean inside, or you might be out in the mud underneath the house fixing up the floor joists underneath the three-season room or something like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where you got only a foot of space. That was actually a example that I went and did and showed one of our newer guys at the time who had just come on the team that I will do what I say I'm going to do, and I'll never make you go do something that I wouldn't go do myself.
Yeah.
Am I out there doing that now? Not as much, barely at all. But all the guys know that that's where we came from, that we're not afraid to go and do hard things. We're not afraid to go out there when it's 0 degrees outside and go to do our job, because that's what we do. You know what I mean? There's 4 seasons in a year. It's not always going to be perfect. Spring and fall, best ones, but summer and winter, you got to do it. You got bills to pay, come to work and pay them, you know? Having that foundation set of leading by example is huge in instilling confidence in other people.
Yeah, we had just a small example that we had to do that in our business as well. And it's so funny how quickly people start selling homes and immediately start complaining about it. And they're like, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. When people get started, you know, they'll take anything. Right? They're like, oh, is that renter? Right? $900 a month in Hartford, Connecticut, in Simsbury, Connecticut. It doesn't matter, right? Like, I'm going for it, right? But they quickly get tired through the process. They're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna only work with like a little bit of higher end buyers. Mm-hmm. And then like you throw it like 2 years out, they're like, I only want to work sellers and I want to work luxury and like I don't want to touch anything else. But talking about leading by, like walking the walk, I remember I was running out one day from the office, and this is probably maybe not a great example of my your dollar per hour at this point in your career, right? You're probably not doing the same things. But someone asked me, they were newer on the team. They were like, oh, you're running out to a listing appointment? And I was blazing out the door. And I was like, no, I'm about to go show a $1,000 rental in Hartford. And the guy was like, are you serious? And I was like, you don't get to 650 deals by just trying to cherry pick. Right. I was like, that's a relationship that I get to help, and their friends and family are going to know me for doing an awesome job on that. The guy wants to rent, and the place is available for rent. What are you doing right now? Answering an email about, you know, something you probably don't need to? Like, I'm going to go, I'm going to do an excellent job, and I'm going to develop a relationship, and I'm going to follow up. And oh, by the way, that renter's probably going to buy one day, and then it's going to sell one day. And I'm going to have that relationship forever because I did what I said I was going to do, and I wasn't above anything. Right. And agree with you. Like, at this point in the game, am I doing that? No, I'm not necessarily doing it, but probably that conversation was more valuable than anything. For sure. So that people could see, like, I'm not above anything when it comes to this real estate. Say, I'll take that rental call if I need to, if someone's ready to rent and I have a space that's, you know, ready to lease. So
that goes into having that kind of mindset of, you never know what something is going to turn into. That $1,000 rental could turn into $1 million house in 2 years or something like that. You know, they're saving their money, whatever. For us, there's a lot of contractors out there that only do projects that are $30,000 and above, or pick your number. You know, are those bigger projects nice? Sure, you have a lot of stability for your team for 6 months or whatever. Are they going to come all the time? No. And for us, we do everything from small stuff to big stuff and anything in between. Are we a little overpriced for some of the smaller things that people want a handyman for? Sure, maybe. It all depends what you want for your level of service and that kind of thing. But people call us and they want something done, whether it's small or big, we're going to go and do that for them, and they're going to get it done in a rapid amount of time. We're going to be there when we say we're going to, and their job's they don't have to worry about it. You know what I mean? So, for instance, yesterday or 2 days ago, a client of ours, long-term client, we've done multiple projects for them, they bought a new washing machine. The new washing machine was 2 inches taller than the old washing machine, and they had this like shelf built over it. Is it top of my to-do list to go and move a shelf up 2 inches? No, but these people need this done, and they need it done now because their washing machine's sitting in their hallway, and they're trying to walk around that to get to their kitchen and get to work and stuff. You go and you do it for them because it's all about continuing that relationship, servicing the client, building on it, and you never know what it's going to turn into later.
That's exactly right. I like still remember the story of, we have dear friends now, right? They're clients of ours. But I met them because their mother is a home cleaner. And I remember it was just like it was like a small little project in Windsor, and she was, but you know what, dude, I think I remember selling that thing for $130,000.
Yeah.
But we crushed it. And one day she was like, hey, I got a quick question. My daughter's looking for a house. So I thought to myself, okay, here's another 130,000, like right around the corner. Turns out $850K.
Nice.
Right? So we sell that, and then they turn around, buy another house, $1.4 million, right? And love our process. And oh, by the way, now that we're down by the coast and we're doing $1.4 million, we get other calls for $1.4 million. That place, we actually happened to have our family vacation last year.
Nice.
Right? Because we developed
That's
such a
awesome.
great relationship with it. It's like, you never know what that's going to turn into. And yeah, if you have a really junky process, yeah, that rental is going to turn into nothing, right? Because you gave them a drink. But if you provide an amazing experience for them, that $130,000 place turns out to be like where you and your family are going to spend a vacation in a few years. So it's
exactly. You never know what the future is going to bring or what decisions people are going to make along the way.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back to the whole team building thing and that kind of thing. For people that are just starting out or that are looking to build a team, I mentioned leadership. You mentioned instilling confidence and like showing, we were talking about walking the walk. That's all well and good when we're by ourselves or when we're first starting. But I feel personally that culture is such a huge thing with a team. Why is it that small business owners start a business and they can't get anyone to join their team? There's risk. There's nowhere for them to go. There's no processes. There's none of this stuff that's set up. What's going to draw someone to that team? Your culture, how you do things. Is this a smooth progression for my career?
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's something that's so important, and leadership and walking the walk is part of it, but making sure you're there for your people and building your people up, whether it's in work or outside of work, has been huge for our business. Mm-hmm. I've said it multiple times on other podcasts or other things, like I go to bat for my people and their wants and desires and needs all the time. Whenever anyone needs something or whenever I'm talking to them, I'm always talking to them about, all right, what are you going to do next year? How are you going to like use this as a stepping stone in your life? And not just for work or not just for finances, but how are you going to build yourself mentally? How are you going to build yourself physically? How are you going to build yourself spiritually? What's your family life look like? You know, like all of these things are important. Work is not the most important thing, if that makes sense. Like it's a piece of life, and it's a big piece of life that we all need to facilitate the rest of our life, but it's not as important as your family or as your relationship with God or your friends or your mental state or all of these things, you know? So that is something that's been huge for us, like in terms of we started small. I only had a couple guys. Now we have 15 guys on payroll. It's grown a lot. I think we're going to be closer to 30 guys by the end of this year because we've been doing a lot of like foundational stuff and this and that.
That's awesome.
How do you keep all those people? You have to have a good culture. You have to care for them as individuals and not just for what they can bring to you and your business. And make it something that they want to do because they see value in it. They can take ownership in it in some way, shape, or form. For us, they're all employees. I tell them, like, this is our company. It's not my company. Like, you are a representative, and it is your company as much as it is mine because you're helping build it.
And when you believe that, like, that's why I call every single team member on my team our business partners.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if I'm going on a listing appointment with you, it's my business partner, David.
Right.
It's not my team leader. It's
Right.
not, any sort of like boss leader capacity. Has nothing to do with that. Because once you do that, you put a disparity in between you and them, and there is none.
Yeah.
Because there is no Brooke Group without every single person on that team. They're bringing something to the table, and you're bringing something as well, and hopefully together you're making something better together than you would on your own, right? It's like,
For sure.
if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go farther and right,
Get a team.
right? So that's why I'm all about that as well. So definitely, like, culture for me, there's two things that I have when hiring. It's two qualities that I value so much. Obviously, like, there's the heart piece to it, but there's also the mind piece. And people talk about hiring to culture, hiring to integrity, hiring to character. All of that's very important. For myself, it's intelligence and curiosity.
Yeah.
It's the ability to understand a complex situation and to be able to put it together. You need to have mental fortitude when you do what we do.
For sure.
And then it's the process of curiosity. And the process of curiosity is, I don't understand how to do this, so I went for myself out of curiosity in order to solve this problem. And I looked at these 5 resources, and now I'm coming to you saying, out of those 5, I came down to 2. I'd like to choose one. Can you help direct me?
Right.
That's the curiosity part. Lack of curiosity is, I'm really not sure on how to do that. So what do I do again? Right? Instead of, hey, we have a library of resources for you. I'd love for you to take a look at that, because that's showing to me that you're actually caring about that process.
You're taking initiative.
Exactly. And what I find really interesting, this has been a great script for me. It's helpful for small business owners getting started, is every time somebody comes back to me and asks me to do something for them, that like, hey, can you help me do this on this part? If trained properly, I often say, are you handing your job back to me? Right? Because it sounds that way.
Right.
And every time you hand your job back, eventually it's a piece of your job that you're handing back to me. Sooner or later, I have your whole job.
And then why are you here?
And then why are you here? And so the curiosity piece actually says, well, can I take more on, and can I elevate with that? And that's how you actually have upward mobility.
For sure.
It's not being a jerk by any means. It's just saying, how much ownership do you have of your own process in order to get better every single day at it? So that's why intelligence and curiosity are so important for me.
Yeah, that's huge, man. I definitely agree. People have to be, it comes down to the whole micromanagement thing. People have to be able to be self-starters. They have to be able to figure out problems on their own. They have to be able to solve things that without needing your help, without needing other people, unless they've exhausted all of their resources,
Sure.
Then
And then we're happy to help
with Dave.
Then we're happy to help.
But until it's gotten to that point, then it's on them.
Yeah, and you do have to own that. So being on them, I think that's a great place to end. I mean, I'm sure that you and I could talk about this all day, about the process of small business ownership and just
teams
people executing on that small stuff that leads to huge results. I think you've done an amazing job with your team, and you lead them well. And you lead
Same
others.
to you, my friend.
So thanks so much, guys, for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode with Zac Neville from ZN Construction. And we'll hopefully put up some contact information if you ever want to reach out to him. And if anyone else in the area is listening, his team in Connecticut does a fantastic job at building and remodeling, and you should definitely reach out to them.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thanks.